Well, welcome to Modeling Time with me, Brian Banna. And I forgot to turn off the paint booth in the back, so if you hear a little bit of a whirl, that's what it is. But this introduction isn't going to be very long. So moving on to the next step, keep the motivation and progress going, we're going to build the Sill unit. Hopefully this session, or this video session, won't be too long, as long as I've made the other ones. It's pretty straightforward. I've got a lot of parts to glue on, which everybody knows how to glue parts on, so I don't need to show you how to glue parts on. The only thing I want to show you in this session really, of course, is the finished Sill unit, but adding the wraparounds for the step well that goes over the sill. Kato doesn't put that on there, so I've got 3 of them in place, and I'll show you what I've done here to do that. I need to also show you finishing up building the coupler lift bars. So that is pretty much it for this video. So things I need to do is glue on the jacking pads, no big deal there. Glue on the ATS receiver unit, that goes on the side sill here, no big deal there. The MU hoses will not get put in until after everything's painted, so I just need to make sure they fit properly and what I need to do to trim them to fit if I need to do any trimming, and I'll explain that when I get around to that, and then build the coupler lift bars. So let's go and I'll show you putting on the wraparound. Okay, so the wraparound is actually part of the step well, and what it is, when EMD builds their step wells, it's all sheet metal in here, and the sheet metal piece from this inner step well area wraps around the side sill to close off the gap there. So that's what you see on EMD units, second generation EMD units, when you see that little tab out there. So now we're going to build that. So what I did is I measured off of this edge 50 thousandths back. I scribed a very, very light line, and then I put a piece of tape just to the outside of that line. So next, what we need to do is glue in a piece of 5,000 styrene. So I had cut a bunch of pieces of 5,000 styrene. They need to, of course, be wider than the sill unit, or in height, and you want them longer than 50 thousandths. So let me get some CA out here. I got some medium CA and a little drop of thin CA. Alright, so for the medium CA, I'm going to put it toward this inside edge. There we go. I'm going to take my piece of styrene and I'm going to put it right up against the piece of tape and then lay it down over the CA, hold it there for a second, and now I got my wraparound started. Now I can take this tape off and I can back up the joints with thin CA, because remember I put the medium CA towards the inside edge of the side sill. So now I want to back up the outside edge with some medium CA or thin CA, and it'll fill any gaps that there might be there. Okay, do that on that edge, do it on the inside back edge, do it on the inside of the top edge, and we want to use some more medium CA and put it on the inside where the angle starts on the sill, on the step well. So now that that's done, I'm going to let all this cure for some time, let the CA cure really hard, and then I'll come back and I'll trim this off. So I'll trim 3 of them, and then I'll show the 4th one on camera. So that's basically the start of building your wraparounds. Alright, so I've got 3 of them cleaned up. I got this one, and that one. So now I just have to cut this one. So So now all of the CA's cured and it's ready to be worked on. So I'll just go in and rough cut the plastic. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, oops, sorry, hit the camera. Alright, so I'm not going to cut it all the way against the inside of the step well. I'm just going to cut it away from it a little bit. I'm going to cut the top. And I'm going to cut the bottom. Alright, now again, I use a brand new blade because I want a good solid cut. I don't want it to grab and tear. So I'll come across here and I'll just slice the bottom, even with the bottom of the side sill. There's that. On the top, since I've got, well, on this side I don't have any tread plate, but I've had tread plate here and in these corners. So on the top there's a little bit more room, so I don't have to be as careful and just slice it off. Alright, now I just want to get the knife at about the angle of the step well and just start slicing this off. When you get to the step well, you have to be very careful that you keep slicing it in line or parallel with this back here. Otherwise you're going to get a rounded this way instead of this way. So I have to turn it this way because I can't see it. Let me zoom out. There we go. How's that? That's better. Alright, I know you can't see a lot, but I'm slicing at the same angle as the step well. Right now I'm slicing through the blob of CA. Okay, so I've sliced it and it's parallel on the two edges are parallel. So now I just want to scrape any excess CA that might have been on there. It's like getting a dentist getting plaque off. Now I'm going to start rolling this edge just a little bit. Be very careful not to do too much. I'm going to roll the knife. Okay, so I've got the edge started. These thinny sticks are soft on the edge, there's sponginess to them, so I can press it into it and get the radius going. And again, you have to be careful not to sand too much in one area, otherwise you're going to get a rounded effect from the bottom rounded out to the top, and you don't want that. You want to keep this line parallel but still blend a radius into it. It doesn't take that much. Let me see. Let me do it from this side so I can see it better. And that takes care of it. So now that side's done, except for where I put the thin CA to seal this edge. I just need to cut the excess off. So be very, like I said, brand new blade, very sharp. I can just come in and slice underneath the CA right up to that edge, come right along that edge, slice and pull it away. Then I'll take my chisel blade, sharp chisel blade, I'll put the end right up against that edge and I'll just scrape it down. And that's it. So I got all four corners with the rollover or the overlap. So now the thing to do for me to do is to put the jacking pads on and this little ATS unit. So I'm going to go do that. You don't need to see me gluing it on. It's just use some, for this use CA, for these jacking pads I'll use some MEK and then back it up with CA. Alright, so I've got the jacking pads glued in. Ooh, sorry about that. There, I've got the ATS sending unit or the ATS connector there. Now, this is a little bit further forward on the frame, on the sill, than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be back about here, but with the truck swiveling and the air cylinder, brake cylinder, it would interfere with it right there. So I just moved it a little forward. It'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. We got to make these models work. So I just moved it a little bit forward from its intended position, and it'll work just fine. So then I got the jacking pads on this side as well. Alright, so now you'll see I've also got the MU hoses on, but those are coming off. I just put them on to test fit to see if they would work or not, or any modifications I had to make. And I do have to make a modification to make these work. Now, the I can't show it because I've already, let me see, do I have another, oh, I got another sill unit. Just a second, be right there. Okay, on this sill unit, if you look real closely, you'll see some dimples where the MU hoses go. Those are perfect starting points for your drill. Now, I use those, but if you're going to use those and you're going to use the Kato MU hoses, you have to modify them. And I don't know if you're going to see this. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Maybe you can see it. Just a second. Okay. Do you see this? This is the top of the MU hose. Do you see this little bracket sticking up above the pin? That has to be cut off. And you're going to cut a little bit of the top of the connector off. But that's okay. You're not going to see it because once you install it, these are all been modified, that fits right underneath this bracket. So where you cut gets hidden and everything fits just fine. Now on this one that goes into the recess, you also have to cut. See if you can see this in here. Did I show that right? Can you see? Did I see? All right. Yeah, this one right here that fits into the recess. That one you have to cut not only, make sure this is on camera, not only this top piece off flush with the top of the pin, but you also have to cut on this side. You have to cut the bracket off the side so it fits into that corner. into that corner. So, but again, it's all hidden once it's in there. So what I'm going to do is, while these are on the brackets still, because I need to grit blast these, I'll take a very sharp blade, and I'm just going to come across, put the blade right up at the top. Oh, here's some that are, so I've cut that one. So I just have to hold it, just come right, put the blade right on the top of the pin and just slice it straight across. Put the blade on top of the pin and slice it. Put the blade on top of the pin and slice it. And I'll just do that for 12 of these. And then while it's on the sprue, I can grit blast all this stuff, and then what I'll do is I'll mask off the MU hose portion of it, the rubber part of it, and I'll paint the connectors with polishable paint. It's a dark steel color, so I'll airbrush it on, and then once it dries really matte. You can come back with a Q-tip and you can polish it, and you'll get that metal look to it. And it'll be dark, it won't be super shiny, which I don't want, and it'll look really nice. And the polishable paint I use is from, I believe it's from Humbrol, and it's called Metal Coat, K-O-T-E. And you can put it in your airbrush, thin it a little bit with, I have some of the Humbrol thinner, and spray it on. It goes on real smooth, dries really fast, and then just come back and polish it. And I'll show you that when we do this. All right, so as you can see here, I've got the coupler lift bars all assembled on the front. So now we'll go ahead and go on the back, and I'll show you how that's all done. So the first thing, I've already done this, so the first thing to do is we have to anneal the ends of these bars, this portion of the bar here. So with the candle lit, you don't hold it in there very long, you just bring it down, pass it through. Same with the other one, bring it down, pass it through. You don't want too much heat on it, otherwise it can get too soft. You just want it soft enough where you can bend it. If you overheat it and you anneal it too much, it gets really wonky when you start bending it. The way that I do it, where you just pass it through, it retains some of its rigidity, but you're able to bend it. So what I need to do next is I need to trim the end of one of these just a little bit. Maybe take off about 40 thousandths, something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to stick this end. This is going to be hard because I got to keep it on camera. So I got to stick one end into the brackets. Then I've got to put the horseshoe shape or the U-shaped piece over it with the loop bends down. Slip that onto the end of the wire. Just let it drop. I'm going to take the other side. See if I can zoom in on this a little bit so you can see it better. Let's go to there. Let's move that to there. And we're going to take this. There, but we want to pull it back just enough to get this loop up there and through. Okay. Now I got to get these things to go sideways on each other. There we go, just like that. Okay. Oh, you know, I need to cut some of this one also. There we go. So let's do that all over again. What's happening is this end is hitting the loop on the other side and keeping it from going where I need it to be. And I'll show you where it needs to be in a second. There we go. Alright, so now I've got everything in place here. Let me see if we can get that in focus. Got everything in place here. Now I want to space these ends out where I want them to be. So they're equal from the side of the pilot plates. Okay, so that's where we want them to be. Get that in focus, there we go. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take some CA. I use medium CA. And I am going to glue the wire where the brackets are. So take a little bit of CA there. Just put it on the end there and let it wick into the hole. That's why when I drill these brackets out, I drill them a little bit wider than what the wire is going to be. Put a little bit on that side. And we're going to put a little bit on that one. Okay, that side's glued in place. Now we're going to do this side. We're going to put a little bit of glue right there. Let it wick into the hole. And we're going to put some on this side. There's no need for these to operate, so just glue them in place so they stay put. I mean, you could make them operate if you had a lift pin on that loop. And now we're going to put some here. Okay, so we do not want any glue on the loop side. So that takes care of that. I need to take this off camera real quick. This loop right here, leg is, I don't need to take it off camera. I just need to bend it over just a little bit. There we go. Alright, so now we need to rotate that loop up and turn this all upside down. Just like that. So now our oops, there we go. See, this is hard. So now it's upside down, the loop is movable, and our crossbars are glued in place. So the next thing we're doing, I don't know if this is going to get on camera well, because in order for me to do this right, I got to get really close in here. But what I'm going to explain what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this, now this portion of the wire is annealed, so it's soft. So I'm going to take these tweezers and I'm going to walk it around and bend it into a U shape, following this bar. Same with this side. After I do this side, then I'll do this side and do the same thing. I'm going to have to zoom this one out to do this if I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing. You're probably not going to see much. Let me turn the camera up just a little bit because I got to work up high on this. There we go. All right, maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. Okay, so I'm going to take this. And as you make your bend, walk the tweezers out. You don't want to make the bend all at the same place because you want a nice loop. Also, if you make your bend too tight, your loop's not going to be able to fall over it. Now this is how the prototype bars are made, except they have a tool that just quickly bends it for them. And there's that bend. Now what we need to do is this bend needs to drop down a little bit so that this bar can drop down. So because it's annealed, I can do that here. I can just take it and just bend it down. And that way, now, the bar can drop down. It's bent down too much. So let's bend that back up a little bit. A little bit more. There we go. So the bar's down. Now we have to do the other side. Do it the exact same way. Come in here. And just start doing the bend. Now looking at the front, I'll bend it down the same, on the same plane. Now I gotta just bend this in a little bit more. And there's our bends. Now we have a almost completed coupler lift bar. And what I need to do next is I'm going to cut these wires right where they come to the other side of the bracket. So I'm going to put the cutter up against the bracket, come in and cut that one off. And I'll do the same on this side, up against the bracket, come in. These cutters are getting old. There we go. And now that's all done. Let me zoom in on that. So there it is. And here's one of the coupler boxes. So let's see which is top. There we go. That's the top. If I put that in where it's supposed to be, the loop falls right over the top of where theoretically the pin would be. So here's where we're at right now. Everything's on the Sill unit. I've got, you know, on this side we've got jacking pads, I got the ground light, we got the ATS unit, jacking pad. You saw everything that goes on the pilots. The pilots don't have the MU hoses on them yet, of course, because they'll be put on after everything's painted and the clear coat has been put on and all that, so that's when those will go on. Real quick, let me show you. I was supposed to have that over here, but I forgot to bring them over here. So these are the MU hoses. I'm going to paint the hose portion a Tamiya black rubber, and then the metal portion, the connectors, and the glad hands, those will be painted the polishable paint that I explained earlier. So that's that, and here's the other ones here. They've been grit blasted and ready for paint. The deck has been grit blasted, and I put a coat of, I call it primer gray, but it's really not a primer. I use XF80, Tamiya XF80 Royal Light Gray. I haven't found a primer that I like yet. I think I've explained earlier, I used to use Stynylrez and made by Badger, and I love that stuff. And I swore by it, and I got my friends to buy it and everything. And then something happened and it became inconsistent, so I don't use it anymore. So I had to find something as a primer, so that's why I use this right now. So that takes care of that. So that's I'm going to let this dry for probably half the day, and then I'll paint. I have to paint this portion of the coupler lift bar and this portion of the coupler lift bar, the part in between the brackets, yellow, and I'll use Tamiya flat yellow on that. That's at XF3. Then I'm going to paint the fuel cap and the emergency cutoff switch. I'm going to paint that a semi-gloss black, and once this dries, then I'm going to paint it all-clad steel or aluminum color, and then I'll mask that off before I paint the whole surface. But before I paint the whole surface, I'll mask, of course, all of that off and the yellow off, and then I'll shoot some more, a very light coat of the XF80 back over everything to unify the color, and then I'll shoot the Brunswick green on the top and a black on the bottom. So that's where it stands right now. Well, that takes care of the Sill unit. You've seen all the important things that go on, you know, like the bending of the wire and things like that, and what I had to do to it, and then all the way up to putting a primer coat on it. Now I have to decide if I'm going to dip into the Penn Central era with my railroad, or keep it back in the just prior to Penn Central. Like basically, if I'm modeling prior to Penn Central, it's 65 to February 68. Now if I'm going to dip into Penn Central, then it's going to be like February 68 to about maybe 1970 or 71, if I decide to do that. Now the reason I say that, it's going to determine what paint I put on this Pennsylvania unit. Looking at my photo, the two photos that I have, one is December 67, the other is April of 68, and there's some slight paint differences. Like for instance, in the 67 photo, the coupler lift bar does not have the yellow paint between the brackets. In the 68 photo, it does. So now I have to make that decision. So I'm going to do a little bit more research, see if I can find maybe another picture of this locomotive in the Penn Central era or in the early era, but I need to make that choice. I kind of want to go into Penn Central, but then again I kind of don't want to go into Penn Central because I still want to do a CPT&C Lightning Strike GP7 or GP9. But who's to say that it's not possible that a Lightning Strike Jeep made it all the way up to the Penn Central or into the Penn Central era on the CPT&C. There could be a lone holdout. I've seen at least a few exceptions in the Penn Central era where fully painted Pennsylvania units made it well into Conrail, and same for some New York Central stuff. So, you know, I could go either way. I'm kind of on the fence right now, but I really like Penn Central, but I like the early era of Penn Central before they started that big old push to get everything painted and stuff like that. So that way I would have a mix of Pennsylvania, New York Central, and the majority of it being my CPT&C. So anyway, if you've stuck around this long again, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and the next step on the Sill unit is just to get it all painted.